Welcome back to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through today's topic because we are looking at what seems to be a completely ordinary 10-acre plot of dirt in northern Minnesota, right next to the Eighth Crow Wing Lake. Honestly, at first glance, it's just a beautiful, quiet piece of property. But today, we're going to peel back the layers of earth to uncover the massive, intense, and frankly shocking history that is buried literally just inches beneath the surface. So grab a seat, because the sheer volume of history hiding in this one specific patch of dirt is absolutely going to blow your mind. Picture this. You're walking down a serene, sun-dappled trail right near the Eighth Crow Wing Lake. The sun is shining through the pines, the leaves are bright green, and it just feels perfectly peaceful, right? Well, this very ground holds centuries of incredibly dark secrets. The contrast between this quiet, modern landscape and the chaotic, raw events that actually happened here is just staggering. Every single step on this dirt is a step over a deeply buried past. So it really begs the question, what actually happens when what looks like an ordinary backyard is sitting squarely on top of a 150-year-old crime scene? I mean, what do you do when the dirt under a modern home is actually a frontier superhighway, a deadly trapping ground, and an ancient tribal hotspot, all stacked right on top of each other? Well, let's turn to the hard data to find out. Okay, let's dive straight into the official documentation. Back in September of 1997, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources actually conducted an official cultural resource investigation right here at the public water access on Eighth Crow Wing Lake. They did pedestrian reconnaissance and subsurface shovel testing. And by that, I mean they were literally digging test pits into the dirt to see exactly what kind of history was buried there before they upgraded the boat launch. Now, while they did clear the specific spot for the concrete pouring, their archaeological models officially classify the banks of these lakes as a high site potential zone for ancient Native American camps. So this ground is scientifically recognized as an absolute hotspot for buried history. Now check this out. See that deep V trench carved into the modern yard? That is not natural erosion. No way. That is the ghost of a brutal ice chute used during the frontier logging boom. Lumberjacks and the infamous river pigs, the guys who had the grueling job of driving logs down the waterways, from companies like the Red River Lumber Company, used these exact ruts as a skid trail. They would drag these massive, heavy pine logs right off the hills and send them crashing down onto the ice of Eighth Crow Wing Lake. Let's actually map this out spatially so you can really visualize the layout. Down by the bridge connecting the 7th and 8th Crow Wing Lakes, you essentially had two totally different worlds facing off. Picture the east side, just buzzing with a heavily documented logging camp. Historical records specifically name workers like Alf Henderson, V. Bale, and G. Hensel living in these lodges. And the daily lives of these lumberjacks and river pigs? Unbelievably grueling. We're talking waking up in freezing, damp bunkhouses to run massive four-horse teams and rustle slippery timber into icy waters. But then, directly across the bridge on the west side sat an old fur trading post and hotel. This is where early trappers navigating the river would stop to trade beaver and wolf pelts. It's like two different eras colliding right at the bridge. And keep in mind, before those lumberjacks ever even arrived, this specific area was known to early French voyageurs and Native American trappers by a very menacing name, the Man Trap Woods. It was this confusing, natural maze of dead-end lakes, thick bogs, and peninsulas that would literally trap men. If a trapper got hopelessly lost near Eighth Crow Wing Lake during a sudden blizzard, their wet animal hide clothing would just freeze solid. Tragically, many exhausted men simply sat down against the trees to rest and ended up freezing to death before morning. Think about the spacing of the trees in this specific area. This isn't just some random hiking path. You are looking at the exact dirt route of the 1870 White Earth Government Road. This was an 85-mile military trail, fully authorized by the Secretary of the Interior, that intersected directly with this property. It literally crossed right over the outlet of the Eighth Crow Wing Lake. Let's look at how this timeline actually builds, because it's important to note that this road wasn't built for logging at all. In 1868, a massive historical assassination occurred. Then, by 1869, the U.S. military requested a brand new wagon road to forcefully move federal troops, Native Americans, and government supplies. By 1870, this very road was cut straight through our property under the leadership of First Lieutenant George Atchison. Fast forward to 1892, and settlers took it over, turning this exact dirt route into a bustling pioneer mail stage line for horse-drawn wagons. Now, to understand exactly why the military pushed that road through in the first place, we have to talk about Chief Bogone Gizijig, also known as Hole in the Day the Younger. He was the incredibly powerful and charismatic head chief of the Mississippi Ojibwe along the Crow Wing River. During this era, a ring of local politicians and lumber barons formed syndicates, and they had one singular goal: extracting the immense timber wealth of the area. To pull this off, they pushed the U.S. government to forcefully relocate the Ojibwe onto the new White Earth Indian Reservation. But the chief firmly and furiously opposed this forced removal, and he ordered his people to refuse to move. On June 27, 1868, this conflict reached a chaotic boiling point. The chief was actually traveling in his buggy to Washington, D.C. to fight the politicians in person when he was suddenly ambushed by 12 armed assassins. As the men approached, the chief stood up and yelled, "You find me at a bad time. I am unarmed." He was immediately shot with a double-barrel shotgun, and as he fell, he was stabbed repeatedly. Historians later confirmed that these assassins were secretly hired by those exact same logging syndicates, who chillingly referred to the chief as, quote, "a big log blocking their way." So, here is the absolutely crucial takeaway. This assassination, which was entirely driven by the desire for the region's timber wealth, is the direct reason the military authorized the White Earth Government Road. Just 2 years later, that military route was carved right through this specific property to enforce the relocation that the chief had died trying to stop. The history in these surrounding woods is just incredibly intense and raw. I mean, this property was a backdrop for some extreme frontier events. Just to give you an idea, in 1872, an angry vigilante mob in the Crow Wing area lynched 2 Native American brothers from the White Earth Nation without a trial over a missing pioneer woman. And then, just down the road in 1891, when the very first railroad train finally reached Park Rapids, a local man named Will Fox was tasked with firing a celebratory cannon. Well, it violently misfired point blank, instantly blowing off both of his hands. It was just a wild, deeply unpredictable time to be alive. Bringing it all back to the physical dirt of the property today, I want you to imagine standing right in this brush with a metal detector. This flat landing spot looks entirely natural to us now, but it is effectively a multi-layered time capsule of every single chaotic era we just walked through. Because the state officially recognizes this as a high site potential zone, the soil beneath your feet is a literal catalog of historical eras. If you were digging here, you could reveal ancient Native American artifacts like 500-year-old serrated quartz arrowheads that were used in ritualistic bear hunts. You could find military and pioneer debris dropped from stagecoaches traveling that 1870 wagon road, or rusted farm dump cans and barbed wire. Or you might even unearth heavy iron logging relics left behind by Alf Henderson and his crew, things like broken crosscut saw handles, old axe heads, thick chain links, and 1902 railroad spikes. It all leaves us with a truly fascinating question to ponder. If you took a shovel to this exact spot today, which era of history would you unearth first? This incredible, multi-layered historical epic is buried just inches beneath a seemingly ordinary Minnesota backyard. It really makes you wonder what's hiding in the dirt beneath your own feet. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions, and I'll see you next time.